Security cameras captured the moment a wild elephant mother walked up to a sanctuary fence at 3 in the morning carrying her dying baby, and did something that shocked wildlife experts around the world. But would this desperate mother trust humans enough to let them touch her most precious gift? Or would millions watch her baby take its final breath? The security cameras at the Elephant Nature Park in northern Thailand started beeping at exactly 3:47 in the morning. Something big was moving toward the fence from the dark jungle beyond. Sangdun Lek Chalert had run this elephant sanctuary for 23 years and had seen almost everything an elephant could do. But when her night guard called her phone, his voice was shaking. A wild elephant was standing at the north fence, and she was not trying to escape. She was trying to get in. Lek pulled on her jacket and ran to the security office. On the grainy camera screens, she could see a female elephant, about 30 years old, standing at the fence. The elephant was holding something against her chest with her trunk. It was a baby elephant, no more than 3 weeks old. Even through the fuzzy video, Lek could tell something was terribly wrong. The baby hung limp in her mother's grip, its tiny trunk dragging on the ground instead of curling up like a healthy calf. The mother elephant walked along the fence and made a loud trumpet call toward the dark sanctuary buildings. Then she waited. When nobody came, she moved down the fence and called again. She did this over and over for 17 minutes. Each call sounded more desperate, more urgent, like she was begging for help. By the time Lek reached the fence, the sanctuary veterinarian Dr. Somchai had arrived too. He looked through binoculars at the baby elephant. His face went pale. The baby's skin hung loose, showing she had lost too much water from her body. Her eyes were half closed. She could barely breathe. Without help, she would die before the sun came up. The mother elephant had not moved. She stood like a statue, holding her baby against her chest, staring at the sanctuary. Her ears pointed forward, not flat against her head like angry elephants. Her tail swayed with worry, but not the fast movements that meant she might attack. She kept turning her baby toward the fence, toward the people, like she was showing them her sick child. Lek faced an impossible choice. Wild elephants were dangerous. They could carry diseases that might hurt the 43 rescued elephants living safely inside. The mother could turn violent if humans tried to touch her baby. Insurance would not cover this. If anyone got hurt, it would be Lek's fault. But as she watched the mother gently adjust the dying baby's position with such tender care, Lek knew what she had to do. "Open the gate," she ordered. The staff looked at each other with wide eyes, but started moving toward the controls. The heavy metal gates began to swing open with a loud screech. The mother elephant's ears lifted high. She took one small step forward, then stopped, like she could not believe the fence was really opening. Dr. Somchai set up the medical clinic with IV bags and oxygen tanks, but everyone knew the real danger was the 4,000-kilogram mother who could kill a person with one swing of her trunk. The mother elephant walked through the open gate into the compound. She looked around carefully, her trunk lifted high to smell the air. Then she did something that would be watched 200 million times online. She walked straight toward the small group of people standing near the clinic, not running, not charging, just walking with clear purpose. When she got about 10 meters away, she stopped. Then, moving so slowly it seemed like a dream, she carefully lowered her baby elephant to the ground, right at Lek's feet. The baby lay completely still on the dirt, breathing fast and shallow, her eyes barely open. The mother took one step back, then another, making space between herself and her child. She looked directly at Lek, made a low rumbling sound deep in her chest, and waited. But would this wild mother allow humans to touch her dying baby, or would her protective instincts take over and turn this rescue into a tragedy? Nobody moved. Even the rescued elephants in their night pens stopped making noise, like they understood something important was happening. Lek stood frozen, looking at the dying baby at her feet, and then at the mother, who had just done something that went against millions of years of wild animal fear. Dr. Somchai dropped to his knees, next to the baby elephant. He touched her gums to check their color, and felt for her heartbeat. "Temperature is 95 degrees, he said quietly, his voice tight with worry. "At least 3 degrees too cold. She is badly dehydrated and might have an infection in her blood. We need to get her to the clinic right now, or she will not make it." The baby was a girl, weighing about 90 kilograms, only half what a healthy 3-week-old elephant should weigh. Her skin sagged over her tiny body. Her breathing came in strange gasps that meant her lungs were struggling. Worst of all, she did not react at all when Dr. Somchai touched her. A healthy baby elephant would have jerked away from a strange human smell. "What is wrong with her?" Lek asked, though she already knew the answer from years of experience. "Without blood tests, I cannot be certain," Dr. Somchai said. "But she probably has a severe stomach infection or lung infection, maybe both. She needs antibiotics and fluids through an IV immediately, or she will not survive until sunrise." He looked up at the mother elephant, who had stayed perfectly still during his exam. "But we need to carry her to the clinic, and I have no idea if her mother will let us do that." Lek walked slowly toward the mother elephant, speaking in low, gentle tones she had used with scared elephants for 20 years. The elephant's ears moved forward, tracking Lek as she approached, but she showed no signs of anger. Up close, Lek could see the mother had scratches all over her sides from pushing through thick jungle. Her feet looked rough from walking over hard ground for miles. Most telling, milk was dripping from her body, which meant her baby had not been able to drink, possibly for days. "You have been searching for help for a long time, have you not?" Lex said softly, reaching out slowly to touch the mother's trunk. The elephant allowed the touch, her dark eyes locked on Lex's face, with a look that seemed almost human in its desperate pleading. The staff pushed a low cart to where the baby lay. The cart was made for moving injured elephants, but lifting the baby meant humans would have to pick her up and carry her away from her mother. That could trigger every protective instinct the mother had. Lek made a choice based purely on her gut feeling. "Bring the cart here," she said. "We do everything where she can see. We move slowly. We tell her what we're doing, and we watch her body language. The second she looks upset, we stop." 4 workers pushed the cart next to the baby. The mother elephant's trunk lifted up, smelling the cart, but she did not move. Boone, the youngest worker, knelt down and gently slid his hands under the baby's shoulders. The mother elephant's ears flared out, and a low rumble came from deep in her chest. Everyone froze. This was the moment where her mothering instinct could override everything, where a 4,000-kilogram elephant could decide these humans were a threat. Lek put herself directly where the mother could see her. "We are helping," she said firmly, keeping eye contact. "We are saving your baby." She pointed toward the clinic, then at the baby, then back to the clinic, doing it again and again. To her shock, the mother elephant's trunk followed her hand gestures like she was tracking and understanding. "Lift her gently," Lek told her team, slow and smooth. The 4 workers lifted the limp baby onto the cart. The baby's head rolled to one side, and a weak, sad sound came from her throat. The mother elephant's whole body went tense, and she stepped forward. "Wait," Lek commanded. She walked to the mother again and took the elephant's trunk gently in both hands. "Come with us," she said. "You can stay with her. I promise you can stay with her." Whether the elephant truly understood the words or just read Lek's kind tone and body language, something changed. The mother's body relaxed a little. When the workers began pushing the cart toward the clinic, she followed, keeping the same pace, her trunk reaching toward her baby. The sanctuary clinic had never held a wild elephant, But the mother walked in without fear, following the cart into the bright treatment room. Dr. Somchai and his assistant Ploy had set up treatment supplies on the concrete floor. They moved the baby from the cart to a thick rubber mat covered with clean blankets. The mother positioned herself at her baby's head, her trunk gently touching the baby's face. "I need to put an IV needle in her leg," Dr. Somchai explained. "It is going to involve holding the baby's leg still and pushing a needle through her skin. Even a dying baby might struggle. And if the mother thinks we are hurting her child, the mother brought her baby to us for help," Lex said with more confidence than she felt. "She is trusting us. We have to trust she will understand." Dr. Somchai picked the baby's right front leg and found the vein. Ploy held the leg steady while he cleaned the spot with medicine that kills germs. The mother elephant's trunk never left her baby's face, stroking gently, making soft rumbling sounds like she was trying to comfort her. The needle went through skin, and the baby elephant made a weak cry. The mother's ears went out, and her trunk lifted in alarm. But before anyone could move, Lex started talking in a steady stream of calm words, her hand on the mother's shoulder. "It is okay," she said. "We are helping. She is sick, and we are making her better. You know we are helping." Whether it was Lex's voice, her touch, or some deeper understanding, the mother elephant settled down. She went back to gently stroking her baby's face, while Dr. Somchai finished putting in the IV and started flowing special fluid into the dehydrated baby's body. Blood was taken for tests. Temperature was checked. Antibiotics were given. Through it all, the mother elephant stood like a rock, allowing every medical procedure as long as she could keep touching her baby. The test results confirmed what Dr. Somchai thought. Severe bacterial infection, probably E. coli from dirty water. The baby's white blood cells were very low, meaning her body was losing the fight against the germs. Her kidneys were damaged from lack of water. Without aggressive treatment, the baby had maybe 12 hours to live. "We need to put a tube down her throat to give her oxygen," Dr. Somchai said quietly. "Her breathing is getting worse, but putting a tube in will really upset her." The mother seemed to sense how serious this was. She increased her gentle stroking, and her rumbling sounds became continuous, almost like singing a lullaby. Over the next 6 hours, the medical team did procedures that normally required the elephant to be fully asleep and strapped down. They put a breathing tube in the baby, gave her oxygen, inserted a feeding tube through her nose, and started strong antibiotics. Through every procedure, the mother kept watch, allowing access to her baby while never moving from her protective spot. As the sun came up over the mountains, casting golden light through the windows, the baby elephant's health signs started to get better. Her temperature climbed to 97 degrees. Her breathing improved. Her gums showed better color, meaning blood was flowing better. But the most amazing change was in the mother herself. As her baby showed signs of improvement, the mother finally let herself relax. She sank down onto her chest right there in the treatment room, her trunk still touching her baby, and let out a long, shaking sigh that seemed to carry weeks of desperate fear. Lex sat down beside them both, her back against the wall, exhaustion finally hitting her. The viral video, captured by security cameras and staff phones, was already spreading across the internet with millions of views piling up by the hour. But the real story was not the dramatic footage of a wild elephant asking humans for help. It was what happened next. Could a wild elephant mother and her rescued baby ever return to the jungle? Or had this impossible act of trust changed them forever? The baby elephant, named Molly, which means jasmine flower in Thai, survived the first dangerous 48 hours. Her recovery became a partnership between advanced medical care and the constant dedication of her mother, whom they called Bua, meaning lotus. Dr. Somchai had treated hundreds of elephants, but he had never seen the level of cooperation that Bua showed. She seemed to understand that the IV tubes and medical equipment attached to her daughter were helping, not hurting. When Molly needed to be moved to prevent sores from lying too long in one spot, Bua would step back just far enough to let the staff work, then go right back to her protective position. The mother's intelligence showed itself in countless ways. When Molly needed to go to the bathroom, Bua would make a specific low rumble that the staff learned meant they should put absorbent pads under the baby. When medicine time came, Bua would shift to give better access to whichever leg Dr. Somchai needed for shots. "It is like working with a nurse," Ploy said on the third day. "She knows what we need before we ask." The truly amazing moment came when Molly got strong enough to try nursing. The baby was still too weak to stand, so Bua did something wildlife scientists would later study carefully. She lay down on her side, a vulnerable position wild elephants rarely use, and positioned herself so Molly could drink milk while lying down. This behavior had never been seen in wild Asian elephants, and showed a level of problem-solving that challenged what experts thought elephants could do. News of the miracle patient spread beyond social media. Wildlife researchers from Chiang Mai University came to document the case. The footage of Bua placing Molly at human feet was being studied by animal behavior experts worldwide, with heated debates about whether this showed true understanding of human ability to help, or was just desperate coincidence. Dr. Sarah Williams, a specialist in elephant thinking from Cambridge University, spent a week at the sanctuary studying Bua's interactions with both her baby and the human caregivers. Her findings would form the basis of an important paper on cross-species communication. "This is not giving human qualities to animals," Dr. Williams explained to Lek. "Bua has shown clear understanding of cause and effect, planning ahead, and most remarkably, what appears to be understanding of human intentions. She is not just tolerating our treatment of Molly. She is actively helping it." As Molly grew stronger, their unusual situation became more complex. Bua was a wild elephant, and rules said wild animals should go back to nature as soon as possible. But separating mother and baby during Molly's recovery was unthinkable, and Bua showed no interest in leaving while her daughter needed medical care. The sanctuary's resident elephants made things more interesting. They were very curious about the wild elephant and her baby living in the clinic building. Several older females would stand at the clinic fence, rumbling in communication with Bua, who would rumble back in complex exchanges that seemed to share detailed information. Lek made the unprecedented choice to slowly bring Bua and Molly into the sanctuary's social group, while preparing them to eventually return to the wild. On Molly's 10th day of recovery, when she was finally strong enough to stand and walk short distances, Lek opened the clinic doors and let Bua guide her daughter into the larger sanctuary world. The reunion with the resident herd was filmed and would become almost as viral as the original rescue footage. The sanctuary's matriarch, a 60-year-old former logging elephant named Sri Nuan, approached Bua and Molly with the formal greeting ceremony elephants use when meeting important individuals. The two matriarchs touched trunks, wrapped them together in a gesture of respect, and rumbled in low sounds that made the ground shake under human feet. What happened next shocked everyone. Sri Nuan checked Molly carefully, using her trunk to examine the baby's still healing body. Then she turned to Bua and made sounds that other elephants in the herd immediately responded to. Within minutes, 3 younger females had formed a protective circle around Molly, creating what elephant researchers call an auntie network, a support system for helping raise young elephants. "They are accepting her into the herd," Dr. Williams whispered, her camera recording everything. "Sri Nuan has basically adopted them both. This is unprecedented for a wild elephant." Over the following weeks, Molly's strength came back completely. She went from shaky steps to running playfully with other young elephants. Her personality came out as confident and curious, with none of the trauma expected from her near-death experience. But Bua's behavior became more complex. She would often stand at the sanctuary fence, looking out toward the jungle, her trunk lifted to smell the air from her former home. Yet when staff opened gates to let her go to the forest, she would not leave. Not while Molly was still small, still vulnerable, still needed the safety the sanctuary gave. Lek talked with wildlife experts across Thailand and around the world. Everyone agreed that Bua had made a choice that went beyond simple animal instinct. She had looked at the risks to her baby, understood that the sanctuary offered protection and resources the wild forest could not currently provide, and decided to stay despite her own clear desire for freedom. She is giving up her own freedom for her daughter's safety, Lek explained to a documentary crew. That is not just mothering instinct. That is love. That is conscious choice-making. The sanctuary adapted to their long-term presence. A special area was built that connected to both the resident herd's space and a gate to the wild forest beyond. This let Bua keep her wild nature, taking Molly on guided trips into the forest during the day while returning to the sanctuary's safety at night. Dr. Somchai checked Molly's health monthly, watching with satisfaction as she grew into a strong, healthy young elephant. By 6 months old, she weighed 180 kilograms and showed no lasting effects from her early sickness. Her bond with her mother stayed primary, but she had also formed close relationships with several sanctuary elephants, especially a young male named Sombun, who made himself her protector and playmate. The viral video that started everything kept accumulating views, passing 50 million in the first year. But more importantly, it sparked global conversation about elephant intelligence, emotional ability, and the complex ways animals understand and interact with humans. Donations poured in from around the world, letting Elephant Nature Park expand rescue operations and create the Wild Elephant Emergency Response Program. The program created a network of veterinarians and trained responders throughout northern Thailand, ready to give medical help to wild elephants while keeping human contact minimal. Bua and Molly became ambassadors for this new approach to wildlife conservation. Their story showed that helping wild animals did not require permanent captivity, that trust between species could exist without domestication, and that sometimes the boundaries between wild and captive, human and animal, could blur in beautiful and productive ways. As Molly approached her first birthday, discussions began about her future. She was healthy, strong, and socially well-adjusted. She had learned elephant skills from both her mother and the sanctuary herd. The question was whether she and Bua would choose to return fully to the wild or stay in the unique space between worlds they currently lived in. Would the bond between mother and daughter lead them back to the wild, or had their extraordinary journey created something entirely new? The choice came on a warm evening 15 months after that desperate September night when Bua placed her dying daughter at human feet. Lex stood at the forest gate watching as Molly, now a strong and playful young elephant, practiced pulling up small trees under her mother's patient teaching. Molly had grown into a confident young elephant, her personality a mix of wild independence from Bua and social skills learned from the sanctuary herd. She could navigate thick jungle terrain like any wild elephant, but she also responded to human voices, allowed vet checkups without being restrained, and had formed real bonds with several workers who cared for her during her sickness. Bua remained mysterious. She had never fully accepted captivity like the sanctuary's rescued elephants. Her eyes still tracked the horizon. Her trunk still tested the wind for scents from the deep forest. Yet she had also developed what could only be called friendships with certain humans and elephants. She would rumble greeting to Lek each morning, engaged in complex social exchanges with Sri Nuan, and had even let some workers touch her trunk, an intimacy wild elephants typically never permit. Dr. Williams had returned for follow-up study, bringing researchers from multiple places. They developed what they called voluntary rewilding, allowing Bua and Molly to make their own choice about returning to fully wild status while providing support during the change. The plan involved slowly extending their forest trips, watching their behavior through GPS collars and camera traps, and providing extra food and medical monitoring until they fully joined wild herds or chose to return to the sanctuary. The collar data from the past 6 months shows Bua has been making contact with a wild herd about 15 kilometers north of here, Dr. Williams explained, showing tracking maps. She has been taking Molly to meet them during long day trips. I believe she is preparing her daughter for going back to the wild. Lek felt mixed emotions. She had dedicated her life to rescuing elephants from harm and giving them sanctuary. But the ultimate goal was always freedom when possible. Boo and Molly were healthy, capable, and connected to a wild herd. By every measure, they should return to the forest. But the thought of them leaving, of potentially never seeing them again, created an ache in Lek's chest she had not expected. Over the months, they had become more than just wildlife cases. They had become family. The sanctuary organized what they called a freedom ceremony, though Lek said it was not goodbye, but rather graduation. The entire staff gathered at the forest gate at sunset, when elephants are most active and comfortable moving through their territory. Bua and Molly stood just inside the sanctuary boundary, with Sri Nuwan and several other sanctuary elephants forming a line behind them. It looked almost like a formal farewell, recognition that these two were leaving their adopted herd to return to their original world. Lek approached Bua one final time, carrying a basket of sugarcane that had become the elephant's favorite treat. Bua's trunk delicately picked a piece, and as she ate, Lek spoke words she had been preparing for weeks. "You trusted us, when you had every reason to fear humans," she said. "You let us save your daughter, when you could have fought us. You stayed when you wanted to run, and now you are free to go. Home." Lek's voice cracked slightly. "Thank you for teaching us that trust can exist between species, that intelligence and emotion are not just human traits." Bua's trunk reached out and gently touched Lek's face, a gesture so tender and deliberate that several staff members openly cried. Then she turned to Molly, rumbled softly, and began walking toward the open gate. Molly followed without hesitation, but halfway to the gate, she stopped and looked back. Her eyes found Lek, then swept across the gathered humans and elephants who had been her world for her entire memory. For a moment, everyone held their breath, wondering if she might refuse to leave. Then Sri Nuwan did something extraordinary. The old matriarch walked forward and touched Molly's trunk with her own, holding the connection for several long moments. The two elephants stood frozen in this embrace, young and old, rescued and wild, past and future, joined in a single gesture of blessing and release. When they separated, Sri Nuwan rumbled a complex sound that the sanctuary's elephants echoed. It sounded like permission, like encouragement, like a mother telling her child it is okay to leave home. Molly turned back toward the forest gate where Bua waited. Together, mother and daughter walked through the opening and into the darkening jungle beyond. The staff stayed at the gate long after Bua and Molly had disappeared into the forest. The GPS tracking showed them moving steadily north, toward the area where the wild herd had been documented. Dr. Williams watched the collar data throughout the night. Just after midnight, the signal showed Bua and Molly had made contact with the wild herd. The movement patterns showed integration, acceptance, the beginning of a new chapter. Over the following weeks, the tracking data told a story of successful return to the wild. Bua and Molly moved with the wild herd, following seasonal migration patterns, feeding in the best locations that the herd's knowledge provided. Molly was seen playing with other young elephants, learning from multiple adults, developing the full range of social behaviors captive elephants often never get. But something unexpected also appeared in the data. Once a week, sometimes twice, Bua would return to the area near the sanctuary. She never came close enough to be seen, but the GPS coordinates placed her within a few hundred meters of the boundary fence. She would stay for an hour or two, then rejoin her herd. She is checking in, Dr. Williams concluded, making sure the sanctuary is still here, that the option for help still exists if she needs it. The pattern continued for months, then slowly became less frequent as Bua's confidence in her herd's resources grew. But she never stopped completely. Even years later, data would occasionally show her passing near the sanctuary, a brief acknowledgement of the place that saved her daughter's life. Molly's collar eventually fell off as she grew, a planned part of the design. But camera trap footage in the surrounding forest kept capturing images of a healthy young elephant with unique ear markings, living fully wild but showing none of the fear of humans most wild elephants display. The viral video that documented their initial rescue kept being shared, studied, and celebrated. It had been viewed over 200 million times, translated into 43 languages, and featured in documentaries, academic papers, and conservation campaigns worldwide. But for Lek and the Elephant Nature Park staff, the real legacy was not the video or fame. It was proof that trust could bridge the deepest divides, that compassion could transcend species boundaries, and that sometimes the most impossible choices lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. The sanctuary installed a bronze sculpture near the spot where Bua had placed Molly at Lek's feet that September night. It showed a mother elephant and her calf, with a simple inscription in Thai and English. She trusted us with her most precious gift. We honored that trust with healing, love, and freedom. May we always be worthy of such faith. 5 years after the rescue, Lek received reports from researchers working in the Northern Forest Preserve of a mature female elephant with unique tusk markings who showed unusual tolerance of human presence during vet surveys of wild herds. The elephant was with a young calf of her own, estimated to be about 6 months old. The researchers sent photos. The tusk markings matched Bua's documented features, and the young calf, they noted, showed remarkable curiosity about the researchers rather than typical wild elephant wariness. Lek studied the photos in her office, tears streaming down her face. Molly had become a mother herself, passing on not just genes, but perhaps something more profound: the knowledge that humans, while often dangerous, could sometimes be trusted. That help could come from unexpected sources. That survival sometimes meant making impossible choices that defied every instinct. The circle was complete. The dying baby, saved through an impossible act of trust, had grown into a mother herself, wild and free, teaching her own calf to navigate a world where the boundaries between species could blur when compassion demanded it. The viral video played on, accumulating views, inspiring millions. But the real story was not captured on any camera. It lived in the forest, in the survival of a bloodline that almost ended, in the memory of trust honored and freedom earned. And somewhere in the northern Thai jungle, a wild elephant mother sometimes still pauses near a certain sanctuary, remembering the night she did the impossible, and the humans who proved worthy of that desperate faith.